Welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at a book. It's called I'll Come to You by Rebecca Kauffman. And we're going to do kind of a test drive of it for you before you decide whether to commit to the whole thing.
Exactly. We're going to give you the feel, the vibes, but no spoilers.
Yeah, so you can decide if it's something you want to actually read.
Right. We're going to focus on what makes it special, what questions it raises, and hopefully leave you wanting more.
Definitely. And one of the things that really stood out to me right away was just the way the book is structured. The story unfolds month by month over the course of a year. It's the whole year of 1995.
It's like reading someone's diary from that time.
Yeah, it's like a time capsule almost.
Yeah, it creates this incredible intimacy.
Yeah.
And that 1995 setting, it's more than just backdrop, right? Imagine a world without cell phones or the internet.
Yeah, and it's so specific. Like Dr. Penner's office is described as having this like really dated decor.
Okay.
And Corinne struggles to find lingerie at Fashion Bug.
Exactly. For some, it'll be nostalgia. But for others, it's a glimpse into a world where communication was slower, more deliberate. Think about how that affects relationships, how secrets might linger.
And there are a lot of characters
Yeah.
in this book, like a whole constellation of different personalities.
Yeah.
They all have their own little quirks and secrets.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't believe the connection between Gary, who Ellen meets at a support group, and then Paul and Corinne. It's just so unexpected.
Kauffman weaves this intricate web of relationships, and the narrative shifts between them, slowly peeling back the layers of their lives and connections. And you keep finding these hidden threads linking them together, and it makes you wonder how their stories will collide.
Yeah, it's like a puzzle box.
Yes.
Like you get a little piece,
Exactly.
and then another piece, and you're like, how does this fit into the big picture?
Right.
But what I think is so interesting is that these aren't superheroes or, larger-than-life figures. These are just ordinary people dealing with really relatable struggles.
Like,
Aging parents, memory loss, the challenges of parenthood, finding love,
the things we deal with.
all things we deal with.
Yeah.
And somehow she finds this beauty and humor in the mundane you. Like Janet's obsession with Lemon Pledge,
Yes.
or Rob's fascination with the falconers on the boardwalk, or even Bruce's love for McDonald's.
I love that detail. It's so specific.
All these like really small details that just add so much texture and depth to the story.
Absolutely.
But it makes you wonder, how do these little details connect to these bigger questions that the book raises? Because it's definitely not just like a light feel-good story.
Yeah.
It delves into some pretty complex themes too, especially around truth and perception. The characters often struggle to express themselves, which leads to misunderstandings and missed connections.
Like Janet's attempt to dye Bruce's hair before Corinne's baby shower.
Oh yeah, what starts as this well-intentioned gesture becomes this hilarious, almost disastrous event.
Almost disastrous.
Like, oh no, Janet, what are you doing?
Right. Or Rob, who completely misinterprets his father's behavior after this disturbing encounter with his Uncle Harry.
And then there's Paul, who's frustrated by Corinne's apparent indifference to his feelings after Olivia's birth. All of these situations highlight how truth can be so subjective.
Yeah. Whose version is the real one?
Right. It makes you think about, are we really seeing things clearly, or are we projecting our own assumptions and interpretations onto the people around us?
It raises questions about empathy and perspective. Are we really listening to each other?
And then there are these plot points that just hook you and leave you wanting to know more. Like, what exactly transpired between Bruce and Harry that Christmas Eve all those years ago? There's this darkness there, a secret that kind of haunts the whole story.
And what about Gary and Ellen? Will they find their way back to each other after their summer together? Or is Michael Ellen's ex-husband back in the picture?
And then there's Kai Rob's girlfriend. She's incredibly enigmatic. She's got this really mysterious past. Will her daughter ever reach out to her? These are just a few of the threads that keep you on the edge of your seat.
I love that Kauffman doesn't spell everything out for you. She leaves these lingering questions, little mysteries that you have to uncover for yourself by diving into the book.
It's strange.
Like, she trusts you to be an active participant, to piece things together. And speaking of piecing things together, the family dynamics in this book are fascinating.
Yeah.
The push and pull between parents and children, siblings, spouses, it's all there, laid bare in all its messy complexity.
You really see that with Rob and his father, Bruce.
Yes.
Like, you can just feel the tension between them. Rob so desperately wants his dad's approval, but Bruce is wrestling with these inner demons, and it creates this wall between them.
It's heartbreaking, especially as you see Bruce's memory starting to fade. Rob senses something's wrong, but he doesn't fully grasp the extent of his dad's condition. And Janet Rob's mom tries to shield Bruce, even from their own children, which adds another layer to the family dynamic.
It's like she's trying to hold everything together, maintain this facade of normalcy. But it just creates more confusion and resentment. You can't help but wonder, is she protecting Bruce or is she protecting herself?
That's a great question. And it speaks to the larger theme of secrets and how they can impact relationships. But even amidst these challenges, there are these moments of tenderness, these glimmers of connection that shine through.
Like that scene where Bruce, in a rare moment of clarity, expresses his love for Rob despite all their difficulties.
Yeah.
It's like this reminder that even when communication is strained, love can still find a way.
Absolutely. And the book explores different forms of love, too, especially romantic relationships. We see Ellen navigating the dating world after her divorce, trying to figure out what she truly wants, who she is outside of her marriage.
And then there's that scene with Gary who makes her this custom grade costume for Halloween.
Oh, I love that part. It's so quirky and endearing.
It is. But it also speaks to this deeper question.
Yeah.
You know, what are we looking for in a partner? How do our past experiences shape our expectations?
Sometimes the most meaningful connections come from the most unexpected places.
That's so true. And of course, we have Corinne and Paul, whose relationship is put to the test after their daughter Olivia is born.
Parenthood is a major theme in this book.
Yeah, Corinne is really struggling to adjust to motherhood.
Yes.
And Paul feels disconnected from both his wife and his newborn daughter. You get this sense that they're both grappling with their own expectations of what parenthood should be.
It creates a rift between them.
It does, and it's just such a realistic portrayal of the challenges that can arise, even in loving relationships, when life throws those curveballs.
It makes you think about the sacrifices and compromises that are sometimes necessary to keep those bonds strong.
For sure. The book also explores these individual journeys of self-discovery. You know, each character is on this path, questioning their choices, searching for meaning. Like Kai, with her unconventional lifestyle and spiritual beliefs, she represents a different way of being.
And her journey to reconnect with the daughter she gave up for adoption?
Yeah.
Incredibly poignant.
It makes you wonder about the paths not taken, the choices that shape our destinies.
Yeah. And Bruce, as he gets older, he finds himself grappling with regrets and unspoken truths.
Right.
That encounter with Harry, shrouded in secrecy, it forces him to confront the consequences of his past.
And there's this weight to those scenes, this sense of unease that kind of permeates the whole story.
It does.
It's like this ripple effect, how choices made years ago can continue to impact the present.
The past isn't always neatly tucked away.
Right.
It can resurface in unexpected ways, shaping who we are and how we move through the world. And Kaufman's writing is so evocative. Her descriptions of 1995 are so vivid. You feel transported back to that time.
You can practically smell the lemon pledge in Janet's house.
I know. It's amazing.
But beyond the nostalgia, what I think is so remarkable is her ability to find beauty in the everyday. Like the way she describes making a sandwich or folding laundry.
The small thing.
Yeah. It's like she's inviting us to pay attention, to find the poetry in the mundane.
Sometimes the most profound moments are found in those quiet spaces, the everyday routines that make up our lives.
Yeah. And those moments are often the ones that hold the most meaning.
Absolutely.
I think that's what makes this book so relatable.
Right.
It's not about escaping reality. It's about embracing the messiness, the complexity, the joy and sorrow that comes with being human.
Yeah.
You find yourself laughing one moment, then tearing up the next. And it just feels so real, so authentic.
The full spectrum of the human experience, isn't it? The light and the shadow, the beauty and the heartbreak.
It really is. It brings us back to your question. Does this book offer a hopeful view of human nature?
It's a question that lingers even after you finish the last page.
It does, because it's not a simple answer. You know, we see these characters grappling with these really difficult choices, making mistakes, hurting each other, but there's this underlying sense that they're all trying to do their best to navigate the complexities of life and relationships the best way they know how. And that's where I think the 1995 setting really adds this fascinating layer to the whole conversation. You know, no cell phones, no internet. It's not just an aesthetic detail. It really shapes the way these characters interact, the pace of their lives.
It's true. We see them writing letters, waiting for phone calls, using actual maps. It forces this different kind of patience, this reliance on more tangible forms of communication.
Yeah, you have to put in more effort to stay connected.
You do?
And there's this sense of anticipation.
Yes.
That we've kind of lost in the age of instant messaging.
Absolutely. It slows everything down. There's space for reflection, for those quiet moments where you're just left with your thoughts with the weight of unspoken words. And that feeds into the themes of truth and perception. because so much is left unsaid, left to interpretation.
Yeah. It makes you wonder if some of these misunderstandings and missed connections could have been avoided with a simple text message. But then again, maybe that's part of what makes the story so compelling. It forces these characters and us as readers to really think about what's being communicated, both directly and indirectly.
It's a reminder that communication is more than just words. It's about body language, tone of voice, the things left unsaid. And in a world without constant digital connection, those nuances become even more important.
Yeah, and it makes those moments of genuine connection even more powerful.
Hmm.
When characters do manage to bridge that gap, to really see and understand each other, it feels earned. It feels real.
And that's what ultimately stays with you, I think. That sense of hope, that flicker of connection amidst the complexities of life, even with all their flaws, their struggles. These characters are striving for connection, for understanding. And isn't that something we can all relate to?
Absolutely. It's a reminder that we're all in this together. Navigating the messiness of life, trying to find our way. And sometimes the most profound journeys are the ones that take us inward, that force us to confront our own truths and perceptions.
So if you're looking for a book that will stay with you long after you've turned the final page, a book that will make you think, feel, and maybe even question your own perceptions, then I highly recommend giving I'll Come to You a try.
Yeah, it's a journey back to a simpler time, but it raises these questions that are timeless, universal.
Yeah.
And who knows, you might just find a piece of yourself reflected in the lives of these flawed but ultimately relatable characters.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
And if you do decide to read the book, let us know what you think. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Until next time, happy reading.